So you're back in Toronto. Now, what was it, if you don't mind me asking, because I know Toronto is, a great place, like, we mentioned in the article in the print issue that you're
Yeah.
in, that is very diverse, Caribbean and African people. What is it that drew you to Canada, where you could have gone to, a Caribbean island, you could have come to the States? What was it about? What were you hearing about Canada, specifically Toronto, that you were like, let me
Well,
go from Guyana to over there?
well, like as most families, and as you see, there's this great migration all over the world.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are getting out of Guyana because of the politics
Hmm.
of this great oppressive nature of capitalism on any socialist country. They would just like squeeze the life out of you. Come on, you got to do this. You got to stay within our agenda. And,
Hmm.
and especially America was doing that, and England. You know what I mean? They when they leave, and you want to leave, okay, we can destroy you while we're leaving.
Hmm.
Okay, and we keep that pressure until we could get our people back in power so that we could control whatever natural resources, and we want to be in control. So you could get independent. You see what's happening in Africa right now, where everyone's saying no, 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 we're gonna as I say, what was 50 cents, he said we can die trying. We can do it or die trying, and that's what they're doing right now, because we realize
Hmm.
if you get these folks, they can keep you enslaved. So for me, I something like my train of thought,
Of why
kind of
you was, talking about why you
why
went
I
to
travel.
Canada?
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Hmm.
So my older brother, he came to Canada
Okay.
to study, and then he got his citizenship, and then said, okay, that's the passport for the family to
Hmm.
migrate. So then my older brother, my oldest brother, he went, and my mom went, and then me and my father eventually
Okay.
went. My other brother traveling all over the world doing music, the musical
Okay.
genius I what he is. And so that's how I ended up in Canada. But my I had settled on. I said I'm going to live in California. That was my that was my focus. I said I just kind of like California. I said okay, I can stay a little while in Toronto and then
Hmm.
Ghana. But Truths and Rights was just popping. Just I played in one of the most popular reggae band. They said this is really sad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
it was everything. I get a chance to travel, go to different parts of Canada, and we being this spokesperson, because the band was very revolutionary. So
Hmm.
I got this great opportunity, and that's why I decided Toronto City. But Toronto is this special place for people of African descent. You know what I mean? People from over 100, probably 130 something different countries of people of African descent,
Right.
over 200 something different ethnicities. We not realize the power of this African Union in Toronto as yet, but the diversity is
I
tremendous.
hear. I can't wait.
Tremendous. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're gonna experience it in somewhat when you
Yes.
come, and you could we start seeing, like, we have the largest Afro music festival right now, Afrobeat, and the festival is called Afrofest, and we got people from all the diaspora in Africa attending this festival, and then there's the Caribana Festival, the largest Caribbean carnival
Yes.
in
I've
the
heard of
whole
that.
of North
Yes.
America. So the idea of culture and people of African descent is coming into their own, and you're seeing right now the diaspora population and the continental population like 50-50. I would say probably 40-40, because you have people from America, you have people from Europe, and you have the traditional African Canadians from 1600s.
Wow.
But
Beautiful.
the two populations from the Caribbean and South America, and the population from Africa is like, the diaspora is like 50-50 on the continent.
So now, do you truly put down the bass? Before we go into your next food journey, do you still play?
I still play, but not like what I experienced with Truths and Rights is, and even before Truths and Rights, coming from Guyana, music is 100%. Like and I get bitten by the 100%. Like, I'm a musician. when you see me, but like the band Truths and Rights, we were so together as brothers that when you see me, you see six other people. Music was like the world. Everything was
Yeah.
music. So
Yeah.
for me to, and this is how the food movement is for me. So for me to do both of them is like I ain't got the capacity. But I still write. I write pretty often. I write with a
Gotcha.
dream and a vision. And I said to myself, within your old age, as a senior, I could do something, but with no expectations of popular music. You know, what I mean, I really want to do it, but my most onward motivation. He passed away about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and that's my older brother. He was the only thing could get me to come out of food and go into music. The only
Mm,
person I tell
the
him,
only person,
you
huh?
the only person. And since he tried on, it's I think about it, but I gotta be in a perfect space to do it. So I say, you know what? Let's keep going with this food movement. Let's keep spreading the gospel of Black food sovereignty, and that is it at my age, because I'm retirement age right now. Yeah.
So now that you've switched from being a musician and getting into the food, tell me about what are you seeing? How, because now it's starting to get really deep and you're starting to open your eyes to the needs of other people and really, leading to what's coming up to Black food sovereignty. So tell me a little bit now that you've, out of school.
Okay, out of school, and as I said, my final project, I wanted to open this vegan restaurant. We call it Ital Restaurant, where the team would have been Rastafari foods, and there's a whole other story with the diversity of that. And I said I would open this restaurant and a club because I know music, I know people, I know song. But as soon as I came out of school, there was this Ministry of Citizenship for the province like a state in America, and they had this funding, $50,000. And I just finished school, write a proposal. Let me check. Let me see my ability. I read a proposal and I got it $50,000. And the proposal was to set up what we call a African centered food buying club, basically purchasing food for people of African descent. The reason is that we as people of African descent, we consume the most expensive foods because we don't want to consume what we call the Canadian foods. We still want the yam, cassava, plantain, sweet potato, avocado, mangoes, oranges. So we have to buy those foods in bulk from the Toronto Food Terminal. That'd be a good place for you to visit when you come to Toronto. This big, huge warehouse. So um, I wrote a proposal and I got the opportunity to set up this food buying club where I got a chance to manage it with volunteers. So we were delivering these culturally specific foods across the city, especially for seniors in the winter. 'Cause you don't want these old folks coming out in the winter sliding on the ice. And so we would drop off these foods to their home and single mothers who is a challenge to come outside with a young baby to go and purchase food. So we were doing it, and that got very popular in the community. After 1 or 2 years, we realized, what, we could do other things. We could grow food. So by the time the third year, we started growing food, and we started engaging young people in a program where we call it Afri, because we always make sure our programming are African centered. The mean it have connection to the foundation of roots, and culture is always part of it. We want
Absolutely.
to make sure we obey the rules of engagement within our community of their cultural needs. So the food was culturally specific. So and because I'm traditionally what we call a person from the Caribbean, and the Caribbean population was that large population. The continental Africans, they come in droves until the 90s.
Okay.
So in um the early 90s was still a large Caribbean population. So we eat a lot. And we eat pretty similar, the foods that we eat in Africa and we eat in the Caribbean. And then we started planting and we started engaging young people. and the programming started to get to be what we call community food security, with this menu options of nutrition, cooking, growing food, and the food cooperative. And for some reason, we realized, you know what, we should focus more on farming and gardening, community gardening, so that people could be more self-reliant and we could start cooking some of these foods that we're purchasing. So we started growing things like okra,
Nice.
things like callaloo, things like long beans, things like tropical eggplants,
Hmm.
and every conceivable food that could be grown. Because what we realize, and this when we talk about food sovereignty, is that the food history and the food ways of Ontario and Canada is Europeans, is what the Dutch brought, is what the British brought, is what the
Hmm.
Germans brought, is what the Portuguese brought, is what the Italian. So that's the food that you find mostly being farmed. And uh, as a lot of people don't know, we're here. People like to talk about Canada. Oh, okay, Harriet Tubman. We're here long before Harriet Tubman. Canada like to talk about Harriet Tubman history because it's post-emancipation. Okay, but pre-emancipation, we were here. Okay, because this country of Canada had slavery. People just feel that okay, no, we run to Canada. We run to Canada after emancipation in 1834. But before 1834 in Canada, it was we had slaves on plantations here.
Okay.
So after emancipations, we got land, and in Canada, because we don't have race-based statistics like in America, we don't know where these farms are.
Okay.
We don't know where these communities are.
So
We
you're
don't
saying when
even
you
know
do the
if
census, there isn't putting down the various races and
they,
ethnicities?
they may put it down, but in America, you put okay, you own this farm. That is not available for us in
Okay.
Canada.
Okay.
At least I haven't seen any history. I think we want to start looking at that right now because the idea of food sovereignty is not just for growing food, but it's looking at history. It's everything to do with food.
Right.
So we need to look at that. So we realize farming play a very important, and we started to grow in these culturally specific foods.
Right. And like
And
you
then
said
we
in the
had
article too, we were you probably see the movement that's going on, which is exciting in terms of Black people really returning back to land, returning to farming, because there was that little bit of traumatization with slavery, right? Of now I don't
yeah,
want to work on, disassociating ourselves from farming because of that, association. But now we're seeing engineers leave their jobs. We're seeing, just people saying, you know what, I'm coming back to the land because it means is much more than that. It's sovereignty, to your point, food and food.
yes, yes, and I would say one of the most important areas of this, what I like to call it Black food movement,
Hmm.
of Black food sovereignty, is back to the land.
Hmm.
Because the land is the sister of Leah Penniman. She said the land is the scene of the crime, but
Oh,
it's not the criminal.
oh.
The criminal is the colonizers, white supremacy. Okay, so we got to get it right. Same thing with Guyana. As I tell you before, we run from the country where we bought the land. We leave that land in the country that the South Asians are now trying to occupy,
Hmm.
and we come to the city to live. We haven't valued real estate. Land is the value. That is why
Mm.
in the southern United States, white supremacy drove us up north in the cold climates with no land to cities like Chicago and New York
Hmm.
and Detroit, and then the vast lands in the south they retain to farm. They take it away either through sharecropping or through, you know, lynching and Ku Klux Klan. So we tend to don't see the value of farming, but farming is key. Farming is survival. Food is the single most important thing for humankind. So, so we started focusing on farming, and we had two urban farms. One in the city of Toronto,
Hmm.
what we call it Black Creek Urban Farm. Now they call it Black Creek Community Farm.
Okay.
And also, we started farming at a farm in Brampton, a city adjoining Toronto called the McVean Farm, the incubator farm.
Nice.
And we got a chance to carry the young people at our farms. I mean, we had 25 young people, and then we started doing what we call incubator farms. And I think that is what this is what we need as a Black community. We need learning farms where our community could go back to the land. Because as you say, like you grew up. I was listening to Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney is like he. I was listening to last night. He said he talked about Mexicans. The Mexican president said the Mexicans coming to take the African American jobs. And Paul Mooney made a joke and he said, yes, they come in, they work for 25 cents an hour. We as people of African descent, for 500 years, we work for free.
Right.
Okay? So free is not an incentive to work on a farm. So we have this, what we call, my sister, what's her name? She talked about people of African descent um, hating farming because of the enslaved experience of
Oh,
slavery. You know, so
yep.
so what we need to do, we need to go back to the land intentionally.
Hmm.
So we have to encourage our young people. So I'm so proud to see what's happening in America with young African Americans, where
Yes.
they're just driven to the land. All these different groups, even here, especially the women in Toronto,
Hmm.
that I must shout out. They're leading the vanguard of urban farming. And we've seen it in America right now. I just looked at my email today. There's some of these conferences on black farming, and there's a black food movement that is
Yes.
evolving that I
Yes.
feel so good. And not just farming, food, cuisine, you know, scientists and all these areas. And we're coming together to really contribute to the sustainability of food and farming in America and in Canada.
And
You
I'm
know what I mean?
excited. I
So
think
this
it's a
whole
very
movement,
exciting time. Very
yes,
exciting.
very,
Really
very,
start it's
very,
like it's starting to come full circle in a sense. And so
yes, yes,
um,
yes,
it's funny because you grow up, you're taught that quote unquote American dream or whatever of getting the corporate job, getting this and getting that. And then soon, I mean, I will speak to myself, you realize that's not where it's at. And that's not
mm-mm,
where your piece is at. And then you learn, whether you go into wine, you go to follow food, you go into farming. Um, I love that. It's just, it's beautiful to watch. And so to your point, Black food sovereignty is really picking up more and more. I remember Farmer Brandy, she's here in the Bay Area and was just talking about how she was, raised and would go to the farm and, she jokes around how she would, you fight with your cousins on the farm and all of that. But she's like, you know what? It saved my life,
mm-mm.
and just how powerful it is. And I love what you said, though. That was powerful. I've got to look that up from Leah Penniman, that it's the crime, it's the scene of the crime, but
Yes.
it's not necessarily, but yeah, that is
It's not
powerful
the
right there.
criminal.
Exactly. It's not
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
criminal.
The
You got to
poor,
let that
yeah.
sit for a minute. That is powerful.
Yes,
You got to
yes,
let that sit for a minute.
yes,
So you've got a new project that's launching off Black Toronto, Black Food
yes.
Sovereignty. Let's talk about
Black
that for a
Fiesta
minute, and
Toronto. Yes.
what the plans are. What's going on?
The plans are that we, like 4 years ago in 2019, we started speaking to the city about because they have this in the city of Toronto. They have this groundbreaking, what we call confronting anti-black racism unit. This is
Okay.
the department in the city of economic development, and it gives people of African descent the opportunity to start helping to manage along with the city
Okay.
these areas of development within the black community. And they're doing a terrific job as of now. It's very, I would say, it's very understaffed, but they're doing what they got to do. So they call us in of being the first black nonprofit food organization in Canada. I mean, we intentionally focus on food. We focus on a lot of things: music, social services, women
Hmm.
issue, but food specifically, we championed that for 27 years and
Hmm.
still doing it.
Nice.
And so when they call us in, the director, my sister Ainania at a deli, pronounce her name wrong, I might get myself in trouble. But Ainania, she said, "Oh, and then I forgot we needed to talk the African food basket." So she asked me and Zakaya Tafarai, the exec director of the African Food Basket, who happened to be my son. He The two of us visited the office, and then she asked me, "What do I think that they could do to contribute to?" They went on a mandate of recommendations from the city to the city of things they would do, and food was one of the areas. And I told them, "Well, we've been looking for the last number of years to have a coalition of people involved in the sustainable food system, whether you're a nutritionist, whether you're a chef, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a food scientist, whether you're a policy person, to come together and have a conversation to plot where we're going with food in our community as people of African descent in Toronto."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the way we need to look at it is to look at the idea of food sovereignty, and more specific, Black food sovereignty, to be self determining of where we as a people would go with the food system. I've worked with white folks for all these 27 years. Good people with good intentions, but cultural competency is lacking.
Right.
And when you don't go to school to learn, it's hard to learn where we want to go. We people of African descent, we are very complex people, especially for the city of Toronto with all this diversity. We know it. We know ourselves, but we're not given the funding and the opportunity to do this. So after speaking for them for a while, the city council in 2021 approved Canada's first Black food sovereignty plan. This is not just
Congratulations.
this is not just Canada's black. This is the first Black food sovereignty plan in the world that
Wow.
people of African descent should be determining in partnership with governments where we need to go with feeding ourselves. Okay, anything to do with food. As you know, they should have a Black cuisine ministry to look at our areas of food. We're so diverse and so much history with food.
Absolutely.
When you hear about food and slavery in America, we developed the cuisine of America because we were the cooks for the slave masters and mistresses. Okay, we determined it, but we never valued in it. Okay, it's only now with your work you're doing, we started seeing who developed this and who developed that. And then after, when the next wave of Europeans come, they come with these dishes, but we were already there with the traditional. It's just like when people talk about the classical music of America is jazz. It is
Mm-hmm.
jazz, it's not classical music. That music has died and that music is still in Europe. But the music of America is jazz and blues. That's the foundation. That's the real deal. That's not We created that. We created the American cuisine with our ingenuity from Africa and what's around us. And it's the same thing with food sovereignty. We would be more useful to be self-determining and we contribute in a greater capacity.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
Oh,
So
that is
so the city, so
amazing.
the city, so the city in 2021, October the 1st, this is gonna be the second anniversary. I like to call it. They haven't called it this yet, but I call it out. It's Black Food Sovereignty Day in Canada, October the 1st. Let people know
Hey.
that. So the city they said they come with a plan, and they said this 5-year plan is community led. They mean we're gonna lead it. The Black community lead it. Municipally supported initiative. They mean the municipal government would support us by an interdivisional team working towards achieving three primary objectives: develop a city-supported Black-led initiative dedicated to addressing food insecurity issue that disproportionately impact Black communities. What
Okay.
are the food insecurity situations? More than a third of Black children in this wealthy country are food insecure.
Yeah.
What is food insecure? Getting up in the morning without a proper breakfast
Right.
and expected to go into school and be functional and expected to go into school and don't cause problem because
Right.
a hungry man is an angry man. A hungry child is an angry child because you're not thinking about what's on the blackboard. I was being taught. You think
Absolutely
about what's
not.
happening in your stomach. Okay, they go to
Hmm.
bed without a proper meal. You don't know what kind of nightmare they're having. By the time they wake up in the morning, they again realize there's nothing in the refrigerator. So that is some of the issues we have. We have to identify and establish sustained support and funding for Black-led, Black-serving, and Black-mandate food organizations and Black food family community infrastructure. What I mean, no disrespect to my white colleagues, I don't think they know what they're doing when they're trying to deliver food insecurity programs in our community because you would have never had a third of our community children food insecure and only 10% of white children. You can see that disparity and try to alleviate it. And they're not doing anything enough to alleviate that situation where
But
I'm
how can you
concerned.
solve it if you're not getting the community you're trying to solve something for involved?
You think they could solve it? That's what white supremacy is and colonization. They always feel they got a solution, but
I
let's
can
try
solve it
something
for
else.
you, but I don't need you to be involved in helping me solve it for you.
That's right. So we need to get the opportunity to solve it right now. And
Yeah.
that's what Black Food Summit is. The other thing is to engage and align and leverage the new and existing city strategies and initiatives that advance the system change. They have a lot of these poverty alleviation strategies, but we're not involved in it. How are you looking for solutions and we're not involved in it? You can't find the solution. You think you could. So they had a long time of finding the solutions and we realized we're becoming more food insecure. Give us
I don't
our
understand how you
teachings.
think it works. I
That's
don't
right. So
understand.
so there we are right now. Our work right now is to spread the gospel of Black food sovereignty and bring the congregation in the Black community to let's see we could fellowship and come to serve the community with the
Nice.
help of our ancestors and the Almighty. We would do the work. Black food sovereignty, being self-determining as people of African descent. So we could have the work that you're doing, Sheree, and all these works that we're doing to see where we're gonna go and how we're gonna alleviate. We could do it.
Right.
We have all these brilliant scientists. We're sending
Mm-hmm.
people to
Yeah.
in spacecraft. We have so much intelligence. Like I always tell people in Canada to come into Canada, the brightest to come to Canada. I could Minister Farrakhan said he came here in the early 90s. He said the mid 90s, the land part of the 90s, and he said the Caribbean. You know, he like to talk in the Caribbean accent. He said, "You people from the Caribbean, all these bright people come up here." You know what I mean? And it's true what he said because he was saying it's only to come up here, you have to have a certain level of intellect and intelligence and education. That is that is that goes towards points in immigrating.
Nice.
But when we come up here now, we don't work together. And that is our problem. We don't come together to create the solutions. Where Black food sovereignty is about people within the Black food system coming together to solve. So
And
we,
so
we
is
want to
that's definitely part of the plan then is bringing
that's
everybody in
that's
their
where
own silos, say we need to do this together.
that's right. And so we have this annual Black Food Sovereignty Conference.
Okay.
We're a bit late this year because they had municipal elections. So we can have our next conference in the spring of 2024. Because
Nice.
it's important for us to convene together and have the conversation. So we could cross fertilize ideas and you could be in food and cuisine, I could be in pharma. Could I grow for you? Could so we need to do so much work together. And then we can evaluate this and see what kind of progress we're making. As I said, I was at a university yesterday
Hmm.
and they're ready to offer me the opportunity to teach about Black food
Oh,
sovereignty. And I'm so
nice.
honored to be able to contribute at this latter stage, but to bring young people together so that we could together, because the promotion of the idea of Black food sovereignty, I think, is the greatest and the most important work we could do right now. Let's know where we are. We are
Awesome.
about being self-determined. That's our walking paper to do what needs to be done. Let's see how we could get this together. So I am
Gotcha.
so honored to be here talking about this with you, Sherry. It's
This
an
is
honor.
exciting. This is
Yes,
exciting. Now, how, for other Black organizations, Black Canadians that want to get involved, how do they contact you to say, you know what, I heard what you're doing. I want to get involved and help bring us together.
they could get in touch with us at through our website, Black Food Sovereignty Toronto, or
Okay.
they also could send an emails to info at bfstoronto.ca. FoodBasket.ca. They could also get in touch with us through the African FoodBasket.ca. That's the parent organization. The Black Food Sovereignty Movement, by the time the end of this year, we're going to be an independent institution of the Black Food Sovereignty Alliance.
Okay. Okay.
So we bring people from all different areas, whether it be farming, whether it be cooking, whether it be policy together so that we could start to really formalize as a Black food sovereignty institution to just do that all across Canada. You know,
Wow.
we started early this year in what we call the Black Food Sovereignty Caucus of Canada, engaging the federal government because we realized we could talk to the city, we could talk to the province, but we have to talk to the federal government because,
Yes.
as I said before, sovereignty is about speaking to governments. We want them to know this is the agenda. That's why
Absolutely.
soon the USDA would speaking to the Black food sovereignty of America. Black people in America, we want to be self-determining. Okay, don't get scared. We don't want to take over. We just want to support
Don't let that
development.
fear
Don't let
come
that
in, huh?
fear. Yeah, don't let them get feared. No, no, no. We're coming to help because you guys had your chance and you had your sharecropping, you had this and you had that. That is not working. If you want to see real progress, give us the money and the resources. We would get it done. We
Because
would
we've gotten
serve
it done
all
before.
those.
Yep.
That's right. We solve all those low income communities in America. We could get folks working and we could get them off of being hungry. We know what we got to do. We just need the resources to do what we got to do.
Absolutely. Well, this has been such a joy, so powerful. I mean, there's so much to go. We got to do probably a part two because we need to know a year from now how things are going. And then also, I would love to see a global conference as well. I don't know if there's one that takes place about Black food sovereignty globally, because this is something that needs is, we've got the movement down here in this part of the America. You guys are doing that up there. So I would
Yes.
love to see something, a global
Well,
conference on this.
we keep having these conversations because this is what it's about. It's about, for me, it's about the conversations. We as people of African descent need to be speaking to each other. Right now in Africa, there's
Absolutely.
an African Food Sovereignty Alliance. And I hope you get a chance to speak to those persons.
Okay.
I could link you to the communications officer. His name is Kerbel. They're doing some great work in looking at food sovereignty in Africa now.
Okay.
Food
Let's
sovereignty in
do it.
Africa have a different process to what we're doing. We coming out of colonization and they are more self-determining because that's the foundation. They're trying to stop genetic engineering. They're trying to make sure we keep Africa safe. Thank you, Africa Food Sovereignty Alliance, for the great work you guys are doing there. So Sheree, you got to speak to those folks because they
Okay.
they have they have a slightly different agenda, but
I love it.
it's
Let's do it.
yeah.
I'll be in touch with you. We're definitely going to do it. And so, again, thank you for joining us on this conversation today. Any parting words that you want to leave
Any
us with?
parting words? I would just like to say to my folks all across North America is to look to the idea of being food sovereign. Look to how we could plant more food, cook more healthy food,
Mm-hmm.
try to be healthy. Don't get confused with all these fancy ads about fast food. Our health is our wealth.
Amen.
That is the real wealth, our health. And it's eating the right healthy foods. Thank you so much for this interview, Sheree.
Awesome. And thank you so much, Anan, for being with me. And on that note, I'm Sheree Williams, your host of Diaspora Food Stories. And until the next episode, be well.